Gucci, Gucci 2 times, say it 2 times. Gucci, Gucci 2 times, say it 2 times. Gucci, Gucci 2 times.
President Trump's travel ban has expanded. In an announcement yesterday, the Trump administration removes Sudan from the list of countries that are restricted, while adding Chad, North Korea, and Venezuela. In response to these new restrictions, the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, took the moderate position that President Trump is pretty much like ISIS. Watch.
Because what you're saying is not dissimilar to what Daesh or so-called ISIS is saying. What do they say? They say there's a clash of civilizations. It's not possible to be a Muslim and a Westerner, or, you know, the West hates us. And you're inadvertently playing their game.
Nigel Farage is the former leader of UKIP, the UK Independence Party. He has spent years pointing out the dangers lurking around the world, and he joins us tonight. How'd this guy wind up mayor of London, Nigel, and is he for real?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I think he's lost the plot, hasn't he? I mean, how on earth can you compare Trump to ISIS? ISIS is a barbarous, murderous regime that inflicts countless misery on as many people as it can. And Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, and maybe the mayor doesn't like him, but Trump actually is standing up, defending our Judeo-Christian culture, and is doing it in the face of extraordinary opposition from judges in America, from people in his own party. But honestly, I do think Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, is, to put it mildly, wide of the mark with these comments. They are ludicrous.
What does the rest of the UK think when they look to London and they see this guy as mayor? I mean, it must be... I mean, this is the seat of the British Empire. This was a really impressive place for hundreds of years, and this guy's running it?
Yes, I mean, look, let's be frank, you know, he is not particularly high caliber. He's been elected in a city that is now increasingly a Labour left-of-centre city. I mean, do remember that a lot of people in Britain are nervous, are a little bit politically correct, are scared perhaps of saying some things, but it's also worth remembering that over the course of his political career, Sadiq Khan himself has made some real mistakes in terms of who he shared a platform with. You know, he shared platform with some guys who've turned out to have some Islamic views that are pretty unsavoury, and I honestly, I think conservative Britain looks at what Sadiq Khan says, frankly, shakes their head and examines their shoes.
That's very British of them, I have to say. So do you see across Europe, as you look what just happened in Germany, and as you look what is happening in Spain with Catalan independence, is the continent coming apart? It looks that way a little bit from here.
Yeah, in many ways it is. I mean, look, you know, you've heard the story over the course of the last few months. The populist revolt is over. Macron has won in France. Merkel is back in Germany. But the truth of it is, what you saw happening in Germany yesterday was, for the first time in decades, a party that is unashamedly German, a party that is talking about their own identity, running their own country, deeply sceptical of being run from Brussels, getting 90 seats in the Bundestag. So yesterday is a big day in Germany. And for those who comfort themselves that Macron won in France, well, in the first round of the French presidential election, nearly 50% of candidates voted for secessionists. So the message here is we may not have had the big seismic shocks of Brexit and Trump that we had in 2016 happening in 17, but believe you me, the momentum, the movement of those that say we don't want to be elected, run by unelected supranational cabals, that is still growing, that is still gathering pace, and I believe me, Tucker, in 10 years' time, this European Union, as you see it today, will not exist.
That's right. And this entire finance-based international order is on its way out, I think, for good or ill. Nigel Farage, thanks a lot. Great to see you tonight.
Thank you.
So President Trump has been in a pitched battle with the mayor of London, apparently, and this is not a supremely smart thing from President Trump. The reason I say that is not because I think he's wrong about Sadiq Khan. I think Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, is just a turd. I think he's an awful mayor. I think he's made room for radical Islam to rise in his city. I think that he's done a terrible job of promulgating Western values. But that said, in the middle of a terror attack, President Trump decided that it would be a good time to attack Khan, not on the fact that Khan's policies had actually been really negative and bad, but on the fact that Khan had called for calm, which was weird. So it's, that was not, I thought, the world's greatest move by Trump. But the media have jumped on this because, again, there's a general tendency out there on the right to celebrate every time Trump says something that's politically incorrect without regard to whether it's helpful or not. And I think that is still a key question. Is it helpful when Trump says things, or is it not helpful? I'm more interested in helpful versus not helpful than I am in emotionally satisfying versus non-emotionally satisfying. If I want emotional satisfaction, that's why I have a wife, that's why I have a kid, that's why I have 2 kids, and that is why most people have a dog. If you want emotional satisfaction, find people you love and be emotionally satisfied by them. You're not going to find emotional satisfaction in a president saying things, at least not longer than the next 5 minutes. What you actually need is efficiency, efficacy, a president who's able to promulgate a message. So the left has jumped on the fact that Trump attacked Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, for no real reason. Again, there are plenty of good reasons to attack Sadiq Khan, who is a garbage mayor and a garbage politician and a bad representative of reform, moderate Islam. Lots of reasons to attack him. That's not why Trump attacked him. And so the media have jumped on that to attempt to create this wedge between Britain and the United States, particularly because there's a big British election that's coming up in the next week. So CNN's Jim Acosta asked at the White House press conference yesterday if Trump was attacking Khan because Khan was Muslim.
Is it a travel ban?
Look, I don't think the president cares what you call it, whether you call it a ban, whether you call it a restriction. He cares that we call it national security and that we take steps to protect the people of this country. It's real simple. Everybody wants to get into the labels and the semantics of it, but the bottom line is he's trying to protect the citizens of this country. The danger is extremely clear. The law is very clear, and the need for this executive order is very clear, and the president's priority in protecting the people is very clear. Full stop.
And let me ask you to follow up on what John was asking about with respect to the mayor of London. There are going to be folks who are going to ask the question, was the president attacking the mayor of London because he's Muslim?
Not at all. And I think to suggest something like that is utterly ridiculous.
And she's right. That's not why Trump was attacking him. Trump was attacking him because he saw something on Fox and Friends and got mad, and so he decided to attack him. That's really the reason. But now Sadiq Khan is using the attack from Trump as a reason to drive a wedge. And again, this is just in time for the British election. So the London mayor, according to The Guardian, the London mayor, Sadiq Khan, has called on the British government to cancel a planned state visit by President Trump after being criticized in 2 tweets by the U.S. president. Trump initially criticized Khan for his response to the London Bridge terrorist attack, though in doing so he misquoted London's mayor. Khan's office pointed out Trump's error later, but the president responded by accusing London's mayor of making a pathetic excuse. Khan said Trump was wrong about many things and said his state visit should not go ahead. He said, I don't think we should roll out the red carpet to the president of the USA in the circumstances where his policies go against everything we stand for. Now, the reason that this matters is not because it matters if Trump says bad things about Sadiq Khan. The reason is because this is one case where rhetoric comes into conflict with goals. So if you are President Trump, you would much, much rather have Theresa May, the Tory leader, the conservative leader in Britain, at the top of the government with a major conservative majority than have Jeremy Corbyn, who's an insane person, okay? Jeremy Corbyn is legitimately a crazy human being. And yet Jeremy Corbyn is now running neck and neck with Theresa May. The last thing you want to do is make life tough for Theresa May. It's a big mistake. It's really foolish. But that's exactly what's happening. There's an op-ed today in, I think it's the New York Times, in which there's somebody who is a guy named, who is this? This is Roger Cohen, who I've never heard of before. But Roger Cohen is apparently a columnist for the New York Times, and he's writing about the election. And here is what he writes. And this is, I think, unfortunately, a common sentiment in Europe. It doesn't mean they're right. It means that they're stupid and suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. But Trump should know that, and he'd be smart to downplay all of this. Here's what the column says, quote, for a long time, I could not bring myself to write about the British election. Trump coddling, self-important, flip-flopping Theresa May, ensconced at 10 Downing Street without ever being elected prime minister, was going to sweep to her hard Brexit victory and take the country down her little England rabbit hole. There were more important things to think about, like the end of the American century in 2017, 100 years after the Bolshevik Revolution. A boorish clown named Donald Trump brought down the curtain. In Britain, anyway, there was no story. The June 8th vote was a formality. The Labour Party was in meltdown, having exited the Blairite middle ground for leftist orthodoxy under Jeremy Corbyn. The British, their ludicrous vote to keep the EU gradually sinking in, had morphed into sheep. May would get her mandate to do her worst with Boris Johnson, a foreign secretary who long since forsook any claim to be taken seriously, cheering her on. Then came 2 unspeakable terrorist attacks, one in Manchester and one in London. Of course, Trump tried to make cheap political capital from the blood on London streets. He quoted London's Mayor Sadiq Khan out of context in a flurry of tweets aimed at buttressing the case for his bigotry. And then he goes on, this crazy columnist, and this is an amazing column, because here's what he comes to, okay? Quote, elections take place in the real world. They often involve unpleasant choices. I dislike Corbyn's anti-Americanism, his long flirtation with Hamas, his coteries' clueless leftover Marxism and anti-Zionism, his NATO bashing, his unworkable tax and spend promises. He's of that awful Cold War left that actually believed Soviet Moscow was probably not as bad as Washington. Still, Corbyn would not do May's shameful Trump love thing. Can you understand what's happening here? There's a counter-Trump movement that is now rising in Europe. It's why Emmanuel Macron was trying to out-handshake Trump when he went to Brussels. It is why the prime ministers of the Nordic countries took a picture mocking Trump by putting their hand on a soccer ball. It is why Jeremy Corbyn, in part, is rising in the polls as a reaction to the relationship between Theresa May and Trump. Trump is wildly less popular in Europe than he is here, and Trump should know that. Instead, by polarizing with his tweets, I don't know what benefit there is to this. It is funny. I'm trying to remember who it was who tweeted out this morning that Trump's Twitter is just the greatest thing ever. Trump himself tweeted it out. So Trump himself tweeted out this morning that the fake news MSM wants him to stop tweeting because he's speaking directly to the people. Okay, that is just a lie. The media love nothing better than when Trump tweets. It is their favorite thing in the world when Trump tweets because it gives them something to cover. I mean, Jake Tapper is right. He tweets, fact check, MSM eats up his tweets like Skittles. It's White House advisors, lawyers, and Trump supporters who want him to stop tweeting. Again, the reason that I point this out is because there's a tweet from Chris Barron, who's a big supporter of President Trump's, and he tweets, Trump's use of social media is pure genius. The media chases every squirrel he releases. Maybe the media should get off Twitter. And so I tweeted back, please name the policy priorities advanced thanks to Trump's Twitter use as president. Okay, as distinguished from Trump's Twitter use during the campaign. During the campaign, campaigning is not being president. Obama, very good at campaigning, terrible president. Trump, good at campaigning. Apparently not that great at effectuating policy. And the reason this matters is because this actually has ramifications for foreign policy. We've already gotten a leftist elected in South Korea who's adversarial to American interests in South Korea, largely out of backlash to Trump. Now we are about to get Jeremy Corbyn, who's a nutcase Marxist, anti-Semitic piece of crap, elected to the prime ministership of Great Britain because Trump feels the need to pick fights with random politicians in London. How is this effective? How is this good? So before we all celebrate, ooh, he's a bull in a china shop and he's breaking things and yay! Okay, why don't we think about maybe the things that he's breaking? We might need those things, like Theresa May. We might need that thing. The conservative prime minister the conservative president, prime minister in South Korea. We might have needed that guy. Not everything is worth breaking. Perceptions are worth breaking. That's great. But if it comes along with also destroying the policies that would allow us to actually finish those perceptions once and for all, then it's a mistake. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show.